Hey guys, I'm April from Giggle Glitter Graphics, and today I'm starting work on my kind of Magic Forest fairy themed journal. I'm going to make this journal using a cracker box, and then I'm going to cover that box with some packing paper that are kind of all crumpled up, and then I've got some cool embellishments I'm going to use on the cover. I'm going to start by opening up my cracker box. And I'm going to find the side with the seam, and I'm going to open it up along that seam. That way it all opens up. And then I'm going to trim off all of these tabs around the edge, plus this extra piece on this side. I'm going to keep these two panels and the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with my paper trimmer, and I'm going to fast forward through that. Alright, so now we have the outside of our journal. So it's already kind of that shape that we want. And I'm going to cover this entire thing with some of this packing paper. It came in a shipping box. I scrunched it up to make it extra wrinkly. And I'm just going to take and cover the whole outside of this in some fabric tack. I already tested to make sure that when I put this on, and if I don't spread it out and leave it kind of beaded, it doesn't soak through the paper, and it did not on my test piece. So I'm not gonna worry about spreading that glue out. If you use something else, you might wanna spread the glue out or use a different kind of glue so it doesn't soak through whatever material you're covering with. So I was really generous with how much glue I put on here. I'm going to just carefully flip it over. I've got quite a large piece of paper here, so I plan to work with, and I'm gonna give us a little squish around just to spread that glue out a little bit. And then I'm gonna flatten it out as best I can. All right, so I did add a little bit of glue under each corner to kind of make sure that's adhered well. But now I'm gonna take a large pair of scissors. These are not my good sewing scissors. These are my junky scissors. And I'm gonna cut around the outside edges and leave about an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch around the edge. It doesn't really matter how much, because we're gonna fold that inside of the journal. Okay, I have my cover all trimmed up, and as you can see, it folds nicely. So I'm going to take and cut the corners off of the paper, and then I'm going to fold all of these edges in and glue them down to the inside using the same adhesive. All right, so I've got all the edges folded over and glued. I've let the glue dry. And now I'm going to take a little bit of distressing ink and hit some of these edges and some of these ridges with the ink. I've got vintage photo distress ink and this little applicator. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that very quickly. Okay, I really like how that brought out the wrinkled texture of the paper. And I'm gonna, there's a little spot there that I wasn't happy with. I think I'll make that the front. The next thing I'm going to do is cover the inside part of my journal. I've cut a couple of pieces of paper to cover each side, and I rounded just the outside corners with a 1/4 rounding punch. I used the large setting. I'm gonna glue these into place, and then I'm going to use this piece of green paper to cover in the middle. What I'm gonna do is glue this all the way down right here in the center, and then I'm hoping to turn these into pockets by gluing just here and here, the top and the bottom, so that I can slip some things inside, right inside the cover. I thought this would be a nice way to be able to tuck some things All right, I've got my side panels on, and I grabbed this piece of paper and I realized I cut it just a little bit crooked. It's not lining up. So I might come back and add a little trim or do something on the tops just to kind of cover that up, or I might just leave it alone, I don't know. I think I am gonna round the corners on this and do a little distressing. So I was gonna do the distress ink and I changed my mind. So I just rounded the corners really quickly. And now I'm going to go ahead and cover this area here with the spine, maybe just a little beyond that, with glue, and then put this in place, and then I will do the edges afterwards. So I'm going to glue down the sides of these pockets, and then the next thing I'm going to do is work on putting my signatures together. I want to assemble my signatures and insert them before working on the cover, because I'm worried that some of the elements that I intend to put on the cover are going to get damaged while I'm sewing the signatures in. Let me just get this other side. So I'm using the papers that I'm using to cover the inside of this, and the papers I'm using for the signatures, a lot of them are from my Forest Fairy kit. So I'll be using a bunch of that. And then I've also got quite a bit of other material that I'm going to use. Grab some of that. I have some painted paper left over from doing my Christmas journal that I thought would work really well in this kit. I have a couple pieces of that. Another one here somewhere. There's some lines paper from a little notebook. I'm gonna put that in. I think I'll leave the rough edges. A little bit of graph paper I think I might use. I'm not really sure yet on that. And then I have a whole bunch of different papers here. I've got a bunch of the Forest Fairy kit, and I've got some pages that I'm experimenting with. I was seeing how they printed. I thought they would go really nicely in this kit as well, just to give them a go. So I need to trim all of these little edges off before I can start assembling them and putting them in. And I need to make sure that I trim a little extra off because this box was just a little shorter than my paper. Now that this is kind of dry, I am going to grab my bone folder, or it's mostly dry, and give that a good crease. Hopefully, this is going to be a super sturdy journal cover. And there we go. Pockets are popping open just a little bit. I think that's okay. Grab a little piece of scrap paper and I can tuck some things in there. So, working as intended. All right, on to assembling the signatures. All right, so I've put my signatures together. I've got 5 signatures. Each one has about 3 or 4 sheets of paper in them. I've got them in the order that I want. Everything is folded nice and neatly. You can kind of see I've gone through, made sure everything's facing the way that I want. So I made my own template today to make the holes in my spine. I used a piece of graph paper since I had it out already. I cut it to the shape of my spine. I folded it in half, then in half again, and then in half again. So it's 3 times. Opened it up, and then once I knew how many signatures I wanted, I went ahead and divided, using the graph paper, squares equally for those 5 signatures. I left a little room on either side so that I can slide maybe some bulkier things in these pockets since it seems like I have space, or I can add a little something like chunky in there. So you want to go on your top fold after it's unfolded, your middle fold, and then your bottom fold. Then I'll take and lay this on here. I'm going to grab something to put under this, and an awl or another sharp object will work. And I'm going to punch down through all of these holes so that it goes all the way through the spine. I then took and folded this paper in half so that I now have the center lines. And I'm going to clip these together, and then I'm going to go through and punch holes. I'll put this right in there and use my same template just kind of center it up in there to punch my 3 holes in each signature. And I'll clip these so that they don't all move everywhere. Okay, so I have my holes in my spine all the way through, and I've got holes in my first signature. I've picked a brown wax thread. You can use other materials to bind your journal with, but this is what I'm going to use. I'm going to use about 3, maybe a little extra. I want to do a lot of dangling things off of this one. So it's 3 lengths of my spine, plus a little extra. 1, 2, 3. A little bit of a tail. And then I'm gonna take the needle and, so I'm gonna start in the center of my journal. I'm just gonna do this very quickly, and then I'm gonna do the rest of my own. And I'm gonna go with my first set of holes. I'm gonna go right through the middle. I thought I'd show this to you real quickly in case we have any beginners here. And then I'm gonna go through the bottom hole. I pulled more of that through than I wanted. I wanted some nice long tails, so I'm gonna, there we go. Back through the middle. Make sure that's nice and tight. And then through the top. And I'm gonna come to the center, thread underneath that first loop, and tie a knot. There we go. Take these clips off. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do the other 4 signatures, and I will be right back. All right, all my signatures are in. I've got 5. My strings are nice and tight. I'm really excited to decorate this inside. Colors are so pretty. I'm going to go ahead and move to the cover, I think. All right, so I've gathered some materials for the cover of my journal. I have this frame. This is just a mat. I bought a bunch of these to put some of the photos I've taken in them and put them on the wall, but I have a whole case of these, so I was trying to find other ways to use them. So I took and buffed some Galaxy Gold, the Brilliance Galaxy Gold, all over the top, and I really like how the black underneath made that shine. I also fussy cut out a fairy from one of my papers from the Force Fairy set, and I'm going to put her behind this frame, but in between the two, I picked up this roll of super glittery green tulle at the thrift store. It does shed a little bit. I don't know what brand it is. It doesn't really say. Someone just wrote sparkle on the end, but I'm gonna do something like that. So she's behind this super sparkly green netting. So I'm going to do this on the cover. I'm going to cut the netting and glue it on the back of the frame so that it is neatly inside of that area. So it's just inside of there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quickly. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that this netting was pretty tight inside this frame. So I glued the top edge first, let that dry a little bit. And now I've put my glue along the other 3 edges, and I'm just kind of tugging on this netting in different directions to try and get that to stretch out a little and be nice and smooth on the front. And that looks like it has worked pretty well. So I think the next step is to get the fairy glue to the back so that she kind of shows through. Wanted to see exactly how I'm trying to decide, she kind of looks like she has something in her hand. So I think what I might do, I'm gonna glue her on, just right there. And then I picked up some sequins. I have a lot of sequins, and I very much enjoy using them. So I think let's get her in place. We've got her there. And I might do a sequin on her hand. I'm gonna go behind the netting, I think, and then do some kind of up, like little sparkles all underneath of this. So let's just grab one of these. We'll kind of put that where we want it. A little bit of glue. Just kind of press that down. And I'll grab one of this, and I guess the trick is going to be to kind of place our sequins through the netting. Let me grab a pen. See if I can very gently kind of center that up. Hopefully I can do this without messing my netting up. Okay, that's good. It does not seem to be writing on there. So we'll just do that. There we go. Now we can do some sequin on our little dots. Go. I like that. It's kind of cute. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down, and then we'll add some more decorations on top of this. Okay, so I have her in place, and now I'm gonna grab, I have a couple of fussy cuts from my Magic Forest fussy cut set. I definitely want to place those on here. And I was thinking about using a little washi tape, but honestly, I'm worried that's gonna be a bit much. Let's try the washi. I bet it'll come right off if I don't like it. Let's just do the tops and the bottoms, and then glue these fussy cuts on if we're pretty happy with how that looks. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Alright, so I've got that all put together, but I'm looking at this and I feel like it just needs a little something else. So I grabbed this kind of a wavy ribbon, rickracky type thing. It's gold, it's a metallic gold. I think I'm gonna run a little bit up each of these sides. And then I got some velvet ribbon. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use it yet. I'm gonna put the gold ribbon on first, but I might add that kind of across the top and bottom. But let me get that gold on first and see how I feel about that. All right, so I put the trim on. I just folded the ends to the inside for now. I'm gonna go ahead and glue those down inside and then cover up those ends somehow later on. And instead of doing ribbon on the top and bottom, I got this piece of text that came with the kit, and I think I'm gonna stick it right up here. It's gonna be a little off of that frame, but I've got some foam dots that I'm gonna use to do that. I think that's it. I think I'm just gonna leave this be. I'm probably not gonna add anything to this. I might adjust those little foam dots when I peek out a little bit. So maybe I'll paint them or color them or put a little piece of something there to hide that. But other than that, I'm very pleased with how this cover came out. I hope that you enjoyed watching my process as I put this together. I do not plan ahead of time what I'm going to do. I just kind of make it up as I go along. If you enjoyed this video, please keep an eye out for my next video where I'm going to start working on the inside of this journal. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.